Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to start our journey today with the topic, print culture and the modern world. This is the first slide, and it sets the stage for what we'll explore together. Over the next few slides, we'll look at how print culture has shaped societies, influenced ideas, and transformed the modern world. Let's dive in and discover the fascinating impact of print on our history and today. Let's take a moment to look at the evolution of publication and how it has shaped our history. Starting with the earliest methods, before the invention of printing, books were created through calligraphy, which was a highly skilled and labor-intensive process. This was a time when making a book was a luxury, accessible only to the wealthy or the religious elite. As we move into the 19th century, we see new forms of publication emerging, driven by technological innovations. The development of the printing press by Gutenberg revolutionized the way information was shared, making books more accessible and affordable. This revolution sparked a wave of print culture that influenced major historical events, such as the French Revolution, and expanded the reach of ideas across societies. The Bible, one of the most printed and distributed texts, played a significant role in shaping religious and cultural life. The advent of print came to Europe, transforming the dissemination of knowledge and literacy. We also see different types of books, like the accordion book, which highlight the creative ways publishers experimented with formats. Print wasn't just about books. It also involved issues like censorship, which affected what could be published and shared. In countries like India and Japan, print cultures developed in unique ways, reflecting local traditions and societal structures. The print revolution had profound impacts, including on the poor, women, and other marginalized groups, expanding access to information. As the market grew, publishers devised new strategies to sell books, further fueling the spread of print culture. Innovations continued beyond the initial invention, with further technological advances and new forms of publication, leading to a truly global print culture. All of these developments collectively transformed societies, making knowledge more widespread and shaping modern communication. So, as we explore these points, keep in mind how each stage of this evolution contributed to the complex, interconnected world of print that we rely on today. In this chapter, we're going to explore the fascinating development of print technology. We'll start by looking at its origins in East Asia, where the earliest forms of printing first emerged. From there, we'll see how print quickly spread across Europe and into India, transforming communication and knowledge sharing in each region. As we follow this journey, I want you to pay close attention to how the spread of printing technology wasn't just about machines and books. It also had a profound impact on social lives and cultures. It changed how people accessed information, how ideas circulated, and ultimately, how societies evolved. Understanding this evolution helps us see the bigger picture of how print shaped the modern world. Let's take a look at the making of books before the introduction of print. Before the printing press revolutionized the way we produce books, creating a book was quite a labor-intensive process. Manuscripts were handwritten, often by monks or scribes in monasteries, which meant that each book was essentially a unique piece of art. This handwritten process made books rare and expensive, accessible only to the wealthy or scholarly elites. The key points here are the craftsmanship involved and the exclusivity of books at that time. Each page was carefully copied with great attention to detail, often decorated with illuminations and illustrations. This meticulous work contributed to the preservation and transmission of knowledge, but it also limited how many copies could be made. Connecting this to the overall theme of how technology transforms society, understanding this preprint era highlights just how revolutionary the invention of the printing press was. It democratized access to knowledge, making books more widely available and paving the way for the spread of ideas across broader audiences. The earliest form of print technology actually developed in East Asia, specifically in China, Japan, and Korea. This method is known as hand printing. Starting around AD 576, in China, books began to be printed by a process where paper was rubbed against the inked surface of woodblocks. This was a significant step forward, because it allowed for more efficient reproduction of texts compared to handwritten manuscripts. It laid the groundwork for the development of more advanced printing techniques. As we explore the history of printing, understanding these early innovations helps us see how the dissemination of knowledge became faster and more widespread, shaping the future of communication. The traditional Chinese accordion book was designed to be folded and stitched at the side, which is quite different from the Western bound books we're used to. This unique folding method allowed the book to expand like an accordion, making it portable and easy to view in a continuous sequence. It's a fascinating example of how form follows function in Chinese bookmaking. This style not only reflects cultural aesthetics, but also emphasizes the importance of practicality and flexibility. Connecting to the overall theme, it shows how traditional Chinese books were adapted to suit different needs and contexts, blending artistry with functionality. Rich women began to read and publish their poetry and plays, which really shows how cultural participation was expanding beyond traditional boundaries. This new reading culture was closely linked to advances in Western printing techniques and the mechanical press, making books more accessible and affordable. As a result, Shanghai quickly became the center of this vibrant print culture, serving as a hub for dissemination of ideas and literature. For a long time, China remained the world's major producer of printed materials, maintaining a strong tradition in publishing. The civil service examinations played a significant role here, as they increased the demand for printed texts, helping spread knowledge and literacy. Interestingly, it wasn't just scholars who used print materials. Merchants also began utilizing printed texts, which supported commerce and communication. Now, when we talk about calligraphy, we're talking about much more than just beautiful handwriting. It's an art form that emphasizes style and precision, requiring superb skill. Craftsmen who mastered calligraphy could replicate it with remarkable accuracy, which highlights the importance of craftsmanship and artistry in Chinese culture. These developments in print and calligraphy really reflect a broader cultural shift towards valuing literature, art, and technical skill, connecting deeply to the overall theme of cultural growth and modernization. Buddhist missionaries from China played a crucial role in introducing hand-printing technology into Japan around AD 768 to 770. This was a significant step in the spread of printing techniques across Asia. The most remarkable achievement from this period is the oldest known Japanese printed book, the Diamond Sutra, which dates back to AD 868. This highlights how printing technology, initially brought by religious figures, quickly became a vital part of Japanese culture and history. It also underscores the importance of religious exchange in the development of printing methods, which ultimately contributed to broader dissemination of knowledge. So, this slide really emphasizes how early printing in Japan was intertwined with cultural and religious exchanges from China. On this slide, we see that pictures were printed on a variety of materials like textiles, playing cards, and paper money, which shows how versatile print media became. In medieval Japan, poets and prose writers were regularly published, making literature more accessible to the public. Books also became cheaper and more abundant, allowing more people to access knowledge and culture. The printing of visual material led to some interesting publishing practices, reflecting how the technology influenced not just texts, but also images. For example, the famous Diamond Sutra, shown here, is a remarkable example of early printed visual and textual material, highlighting the significance of printed images and texts in spreading ideas and culture. This all ties back to our overall theme of how printing revolutionized the dissemination of knowledge and culture, making it more widespread and diverse. As demand for books grew across Europe, we see that the continent started exporting books to different countries, expanding their reach and influence. This increasing interest also led to the celebration of book fairs, which became important events for exchanging ideas and showcasing new works. During this time, scribes, who were highly skilled writers, began working more closely with booksellers, helping to meet the rising demand for written materials. In 1295, a significant event took place. Marco Polo, the renowned explorer, returned to Italy after many years exploring China. What's especially interesting is that he brought back knowledge of print technology, which was still relatively new and advanced at that time. However, it's important to note that luxury editions of books were still handwritten on very expensive vellum, which made them rare and valuable. This period marks a crucial transition, where the spread of knowledge, exploration, and technological advancements all start to intertwine, setting the stage for the revolutionary changes in how books would be produced and shared across Europe. Handwritten manuscripts could not satisfy the ever-increasing demand for books. Copying was expensive, laborious, and time-consuming. Manuscripts were also fragile and difficult to handle and carry around, which made their circulation quite limited. Because of these challenges, there was a clear and pressing need for a way to produce books that was quicker and more affordable. This slide highlights some of the key limitations of manuscripts that ultimately drove the search for better solutions in book production. When we look at the standards of the time, this new method of production was incredibly fast. However, it's important to remember that it didn't completely replace the traditional art of handcrafting books. Instead, what we saw was a significant shift from hand printing to mechanical printing, which is often called the print revolution. This revolution was inspired by the olive press, which served as a model for the printing press. Molds played a crucial role here. They were used to cast the metal letters, making the process more efficient. By 1448, Gutenberg had perfected this system, and the first major book he printed was the Bible. Interestingly, he produced about 180 copies, and it took him 3 years to complete these. Now, a little about Johann Gutenberg himself. He was the son of a merchant and grew up on a large agricultural estate. He became a master goldsmith, which meant he was skilled with metals and crafting. In fact, he created lead molds for making trinkets, and this experience helped him adapt the technology for his printing innovations. So, in essence, Gutenberg's background and expertise in metalwork played a vital role in the development of the printing press, which would ultimately transform how knowledge was shared across the world. Now, let's take a closer look at Gutenberg and his revolutionary invention, the printing press. Gutenberg's development of movable type around 1440 marked a turning point in history. It allowed for the mass production of books, making information more accessible than ever before. This innovation didn't just change how books were made. It transformed education, religion, and the spread of ideas across Europe and eventually the world. It's a perfect example of how technological breakthroughs can accelerate cultural and intellectual growth, aligning with our overall theme of how innovations shape societies. Let's talk about the Bible. The Bible is often considered one of the most influential texts in history. It's a collection of sacred writings that have shaped religious beliefs, moral values, and cultural practices for thousands of years. When we think about the Bible, we're really looking at a book that contains stories, poetry, laws, and teachings that have guided millions of people around the world. It's not just a religious book, but also a historical document that offers insights into ancient civilizations. The key point here is its profound impact, both spiritually and culturally, and how it continues to influence our understanding of morality, purpose, and human nature. Connecting this to the overall theme, the Bible exemplifies how sacred texts can serve as a foundation for community, identity, and moral guidance across generations. All right, let's look at the impact of the print revolution. First, it influenced popular perceptions, shaping how people viewed the world around them. It made information more accessible, which in turn changed public attitudes and beliefs. Next, it transformed the lives of individuals by providing access to books and knowledge that were previously hard to reach. This was a huge step forward in education and personal growth. It also opened up new ways of looking at things, encouraging critical thinking and fresh perspectives. Furthermore, the print revolution led to a change in people's relationships with institutions and authorities. As information became more widespread, it challenged traditional power structures and fostered a sense of individual agency. Lastly, it spurred the development of new ways of producing books, making printing faster and more efficient, which helped spread ideas even further. All these points tie into the overall theme of how the print revolution was a catalyst for profound social and cultural change. shaping the modern world we live in today. The transmission of this new reading culture was actually quite straightforward, mainly because literacy rates were still very low at the time. This made it easier for printers to focus on producing popular ballads and folk tales, often illustrated with pictures, which made them even more appealing. These printed materials were then sung or recited in villages and in taverns in towns, becoming a common form of entertainment and storytelling. For ordinary people, life was centered around oral culture. They listened to sacred texts being read aloud, enjoyed ballads, and heard folk tales narrated by storytellers. When books became more accessible, it created a whole new culture of reading among the common folk. This led to the emergence of a new reading public. More people began engaging with written material. The printing press played a crucial role here because it significantly reduced the cost, time, and labor involved in producing books. As a result, books started flooding the market, making reading more widespread and more affordable for a larger segment of society. So, in essence, the print revolution didn't just change how books were made. It transformed society by broadening access to knowledge and culture, fostering a new culture of reading that reached beyond the elite and into everyday life. So, here we see how oral culture didn't just disappear when print emerged. Instead, it actually entered print, and printed material was often transmitted orally as well. This means that the distinction between hearing and reading audiences started to blur. People who listened to stories or information would also read, and readers would often pass on what they read out loud. As a result, the audience for printed materials became more dynamic and interconnected. This gave rise to what we call the new reading public, a group that was not just passively consuming printed texts, but actively engaging with them in oral ways. This shift is really important because it shows how the dissemination of knowledge and culture became more fluid, blending the oral traditions with the written word, which ultimately transformed how society engaged with information. It's a key point in understanding the evolution of communication and the democratization of knowledge during this period. Print played a crucial role in spreading ideas widely, allowing people to engage with different perspectives more easily than ever before. It opened up a whole new world of debate and discussion, encouraging people to think critically and share their opinions openly. However, this newfound ability to publish and distribute ideas also brought about some fears, especially in the realm of religion. Religious debates became more prominent, as printed materials could challenge established doctrines and authority. Many religious leaders were worried about the potential for print to spread heresy or dissent, which could threaten social and spiritual stability. So, while print democratized knowledge and fostered lively discussions, it also sparked concerns about its impact on religious authority and orthodoxy. This tension is a key part of understanding how print transformed society and the ways people communicated and challenged ideas. In 1517, Martin Luther, a Scottish monk and theologian, took a bold stand by writing what we now call the 95 Theses. These were essentially a list of criticisms against many of the practices and rituals of the Roman Catholic Church at the time. His actions sparked a huge upheaval within the Church, leading to what we call the Protestant Reformation. This was a major turning point in religious history, dividing the Church and reshaping the Christian landscape across Europe. It's a perfect example of how a single act of challenge can ignite widespread change, especially when combined with the power of print media. Speaking of print, there was a lot of concern back then about how the circulation of books could influence people's minds. Many feared that rebellious or irreligious ideas might spread rapidly, undermining authority and stability. People worried that valuable religious texts and traditional teachings could be easily distorted or challenged. This fear of print media often led to criticism, as authorities tried to control what was circulated and what ideas could take hold. So this example ties right into our overall theme: how the advent of print media sparked religious debates and raised fears about its potential to disrupt established beliefs and social order. It shows us that whenever new technology or ideas emerge, there's often a mix of excitement and apprehension about its impact. In the 17th and 18th centuries, literacy levels across Europe saw a significant increase, reaching between 60 and 80%. This rise in literacy created a whole new reading public, which in turn boosted the book trade. Booksellers responded by employing peddlers to travel around and sell books directly to people, making reading more accessible than ever before. This surge in reading activity led to what we call the reading mania. Naturally, this worried the Roman Church, as they saw the potential for people to interpret religious texts independently. To control this, they introduced strict measures, including the Index of Prohibited Books starting in 1558, to limit what could be read. At the same time, print and religious literature opened the door for a variety of individual interpretations of faith. For example, Manacchio reinterpreted the Bible's message and developed his own ideas about God and creation. These ideas challenged church doctrines, and as a result, he was executed for heresy. Overall, this period highlights how print technology and increased literacy both empowered personal interpretation and also prompted authorities to tighten control over what was published and read. It's a fascinating dynamic between expanding knowledge and institutional authority that shaped the course of religious and intellectual history. Many historians believe that print culture played a crucial role in creating the conditions that ultimately led to the French Revolution. For example, the spread of ideas through newspapers, pamphlets, and books helped challenge the traditional authority of the monarchy and the church. These printed materials made information more accessible to a wider audience, fueling discussions about rights, liberty, and reform. They also helped unify people across different regions by sharing revolutionary ideas and encouraging collective action. So, in a way, print culture was a catalyst for change, transforming how people thought about their society and motivating them to seek a new order. This connection between the rise of print media and revolutionary movements is a key part of understanding the broader social and political shifts of that era. On this slide, we see how the Enlightenment thinkers challenged traditional ideas by offering critical commentary on topics like tradition, superstitions, and despotism. Figures like Voltaire and Rousseau were especially influential, shaping new ways of thinking about society and governance. Now, an important point to note is how the printing press played a key role in spreading these ideas widely and quickly. It made the writings of these thinkers accessible to more people, fueling the spread of Enlightenment principles across Europe. This connection between the thinkers' ideas and the print culture helped to challenge the old authorities and promote new ideas about reason, liberty, and individual rights. So, in essence, the printing press was a powerful tool that helped popularize the Enlightenment, making it a shared movement that reached many and contributed to shaping modern ideas about society. The general public started to engage more actively in discussions about values, norms, and institutions. This was a significant shift because people began to question and reevaluate the established notions that had long been accepted without much scrutiny. It's really about a move towards more critical thinking and collective reflection. This process led to the creation of a new culture, one centered around dialogue and debate. People were no longer just passively accepting ideas. They were actively engaging in conversations, challenging ideas, and exploring different perspectives. This shift is crucial because it fosters a more open and dynamic exchange of ideas, which is fundamental to social progress. Connecting this to the overall theme of the presentation, it highlights how societal transformations often stem from increased public participation and discourse. When more voices are involved in discussions about core values and norms, it can lead to more inclusive and evolving institutions. This culture of dialogue ultimately helps societies adapt and grow in more thoughtful and democratic directions. There was a noticeable surge in literature during this period that openly mocked the royalty and criticized their morality. This growing body of satirical and critical writing played a significant role in shaping public perception. Thanks to the power of print, these ideas spread rapidly, creating a vivid image of the royalty as indulging excessively in their own pleasures. Importantly, this was often at the expense of the common public, highlighting the disconnect between the ruling class and everyday people. By the 1780s, these sentiments had gained considerable momentum. fueling public discourse and contributing to the broader themes of challenge to authority and calls for reform that we've been discussing throughout this presentation. During the 19th century, we see incredible progress in mass literacy across Europe. This was a period when reading became accessible to a much larger segment of the population. We're talking about children, women, and workers, groups that previously had limited access to books and education. Because of this surge in literacy, publishers and authors started creating books specifically with these new readers in mind. Many of these books were designed to be engaging and suitable for children's sense and sensibilities. This shift not only expanded the reach of reading, but also influenced the types of stories and content that were produced, making literature more inclusive and reflective of society's changing needs. This period really marks a significant chapter in making knowledge and stories more widely available, which ties into the broader theme of how access to reading shapes cultural and social development. Now, let's look at how folk tales were adapted during this period. Many of these stories were rephrased to make them more suitable and engaging for children. This was a way to pass on cultural values and lessons in a format that was accessible to young audiences. At the same time, we see women playing a significant role, not just as readers, but also as writers. This shift helped to diversify the voices in literature and expand the types of stories being told. Another important development was the rise of lending libraries, which had been around since the 17th century. These libraries became lively hubs of activity, especially for white-collar workers, artisans, and the lower middle class. They made books more accessible to a broader audience, helping to promote literacy and a love of reading across different social classes. All of these changes reflect a broader movement towards making literature more inclusive, educational, and central to everyday life. Let's take a moment to look at this front page of a magazine targeted at the working class. As you can see, the cover is designed to immediately grab attention and resonate with everyday workers. The imagery and headlines are crafted to reflect their concerns, aspirations, and struggles. This kind of publication plays a crucial role in giving voice to the working class, highlighting issues that matter most to them. It also demonstrates how media can serve as a platform for empowerment and awareness. Overall, this slide reminds us of the importance of engaging with the working class through media that speaks their language and addresses their realities. Let's take a closer look at the books for women in the 19th century. During this period, literature played a crucial role in shaping women's identities and expanding their horizons. Many books were specifically written to address women's issues, interests, and aspirations, reflecting the changing social landscape. These works often aim to empower women, promote education, and challenge traditional gender roles. It's fascinating to see how literature became a tool for both personal growth and social reform. Recognizing these books helps us understand how women in the 19th century navigated and contributed to a society in transition, which ties into the broader themes of progress and cultural change we've been discussing. Let's take a look at early bookstores. These venues played a crucial role in the dissemination of knowledge and the growth of literacy. They were among the first places where people could access a variety of books in one location, making reading more convenient and appealing. Early bookstores not only sold books, but also helped foster a community of readers and thinkers. They served as hubs for intellectual exchange, discussion, and education. This development was key to the broader spread of ideas and culture, aligning with our overall theme of how information technology and access have evolved over time. Understanding their importance helps us appreciate the foundations of modern publishing and book retailing. Electrically operated presses began to appear around the turn of the 20th century, and this was a real game changer for the printing industry. It significantly sped up the printing process, making it more efficient than ever before. During this period, we saw many other innovations as well, and all of these advancements built on each other. The combined effect was a noticeable improvement in the quality and appearance of printed texts. For example, Richard M. Hoe from New York perfected the power-driven cylindrical press by the mid-19th century, which could print about 8,000 sheets per hour, an impressive feat at the time. Later, In the late 19th century, the offset press was developed. This innovative machine could print up to 6 colors simultaneously, allowing for more vibrant and colorful prints. These innovations truly transformed printing, making it faster, more versatile, and capable of producing higher quality materials. Let's take a moment to talk about Richard M. Hoe and his groundbreaking printing press. Hoe was a pivotal figure in the history of printing technology. His innovations in press design significantly increased the efficiency and speed of printing, which helped to spread knowledge more rapidly than ever before. What really set Hoe apart was his development of rotary printing presses, a major leap forward from earlier models. These presses could print newspapers, books, and other materials much faster, making mass distribution possible. This innovation not only transformed the publishing industry, but also played a crucial role in the broader dissemination of ideas, supporting the rise of literacy and education. Overall, Hoe's contributions exemplify how technological advances in printing have always been central to societal progress, connecting directly to our theme of technological impact on communication and knowledge sharing. Many periodicals in the 19th century played a crucial role by serializing important novels, making literature more accessible and engaging for a broad audience. Moving into the 1920s in England, we see a different approach with popular works being sold in affordable series, known as the shilling series. This was a clever way to reach more readers by lowering costs. Another key innovation in the 20th century was the book jacket or dust cover, which added protection and also served as a marketing tool. It's interesting to see how these small changes influenced book sales and accessibility. During the 1930s, in the wake of the Great Depression, publishers introduced cheap paperback editions. These were designed to make books affordable during tough economic times, ensuring that reading remained a part of people's lives despite financial hardships. So overall, these strategies, serializations, affordable series, dust covers, and inexpensive paperbacks, highlight how publishers adapted their methods to reach wider audiences and sustain the book industry through changing social and economic landscapes. Let's take a closer look at serialized novels and the shilling series of the 19th century. These were a popular way for authors to reach readers, often publishing their stories in installments over time. This method kept audiences eagerly awaiting the next part, creating a sense of anticipation and ongoing engagement. The shilling series, in particular, refers to publications sold at a low price, just a shilling, making literature more accessible to a wider public. It really democratized reading, allowing more people to enjoy serialized stories outside of traditional bookshops. This approach was significant because it shaped the way stories were consumed and helped establish the modern concept of serial storytelling, which still influences publishing today. Overall, these serialized novels and shilling series played a crucial role in expanding literacy and popular culture during the 19th century. Dust jackets or book covers were actually introduced in the 19th century, and this was a pretty significant development in the history of books. They served not just a decorative purpose, but also helped protect the book itself from damage. The introduction of dust jackets also marked a shift in how books were marketed and presented to readers, adding an element of visual appeal and branding. This period really set the stage for the modern book covers we see today, blending functionality with design. So, understanding this evolution helps us see how the presentation of books has become an integral part of their identity and appeal. Print played a crucial role in making religious texts accessible to the common people, allowing them to engage with their faith more directly. It also became a powerful tool for shaping new political debates, giving voice to different perspectives across India. Through print, news and ideas traveled easily from one region to another, helping to connect diverse communities. For example, the Ramcharit Manas of Tulsidas was printed in Calcutta in 1810, making this important scripture more widely available. From the 1880s onward, presses like the Naval Kishore Press in Lucknow and the Shri Venkateshwar Press in Bombay published many religious texts in local languages, ensuring broader reach. In North India, ulama began producing inexpensive lithographic prints that included Persian and Urdu translations of holy scriptures, along with religious newspapers and pamphlets. The Deoband Seminary, established in 1867, also contributed by publishing thousands of fatwas, guidance on proper conduct in Muslim life. Meanwhile, Hindu orthodoxy responded by commissioning publications like the Samachar Chandrika to counter opposing views. In 1822, two Persian newspapers, Jami-Jahan Nama and Shamsul Akbar, started publishing, alongside the Bombay Samachar, a Gujarati newspaper from the same year. Print culture was also a catalyst for debate, especially on religious, social, and political issues. For instance, Ramohan Roy's Sambad Kaumudi, starting in 1821, challenged orthodox Hindu practices and ideas. The colonial government, under Warren Hastings, actively supported official newspapers to shape public opinion and protect imperial interests. The introduction of the printing press by Portuguese missionaries in Goa during the mid-16th century was another milestone. They first printed books in Konkani, and by 1674, about 50 titles had been produced in Konkani and Kannada languages. Additionally, Catholic priests printed Tamil and Malayalam books in 1579 at Cochin, and again in 1713, spreading Christian literature in regional languages. Overall, print culture not only democratized access to religious and literary texts, but also fostered an environment of discussion and critique, both within India and in its wider global context. By the 1870s, we see that caricatures and cartoons started to appear regularly in journals and newspapers. These illustrations weren't just for entertainment. They commented on social and political issues of the time, making complex topics more accessible and engaging for the public. A new visual culture was really taking shape by the end of the 19th century, with many printing presses producing visual images in large quantities, reaching a wider audience. Artists like Raja Ravi Varma played a key role here, as their works were mass-produced through printing, allowing more people to access and appreciate art. This development helped people connect with the themes and characters depicted, especially in novels and stories. Speaking of literature, new forms of writing also emerged, such as lyrics, short stories, and essays that dealt with social and political topics. These became important tools for social commentary and reflection. Initially, many people read novels by European writers, but these often didn't resonate because they were rooted in European contexts. Over time, Indian writers began to emerge, crafting stories that reflected their own society and culture, making literature more relatable and meaningful to the Indian audience. This shift in publication and storytelling was crucial in shaping a more locally connected and diverse literary landscape. While Urdu, Tamil, Bengali, and Marathi printing cultures had developed quite early, it's interesting to note that Hindi printing only began to gain serious momentum from the 1870s. This delay had a lot to do with social attitudes at the time. Conservative Hindus and Muslims still strongly opposed women's education because they believed that exposing girls to learning might pollute their minds. They wanted their daughters to read religious texts, but anything beyond that was often seen as unnecessary or even dangerous. However, despite these restrictions, some women did find ways to get educated at home, and others managed to attend schools. It was a period when many women writers started to express their thoughts and experiences through their writings. This was a significant development because it gave voice to women's perspectives. Many of these writers focused on the lives and feelings of women, which resonated with a broader audience. Because of this, we saw a substantial increase in readership among middle-class women. It's also important to highlight that during this time, many liberal husbands and fathers supported women's education, recognizing its importance for personal growth and societal progress. So overall, this slide illustrates how print culture and women's education began to evolve together, gradually challenging conservative norms and opening new avenues for women's voices to be heard. Now, let's talk about how access to books evolved for the poorer sections of society. In the 19th century, very cheap small books started appearing in the markets of Madras towns. These books were sold at crossroads, making them easily accessible for poor people who couldn't afford more expensive books. This was a significant step in spreading literacy and knowledge among the lower-income groups. Moving into the early 20th century, we see the establishment of public libraries. These libraries played a crucial role in increasing access to books for everyone, regardless of their economic background. They helped democratize knowledge and provided a space where people could learn and grow. Interestingly, many wealthy individuals also set up their own libraries. They did this not just out of a love for books, but also to assert their prestige within their communities. By doing so, they showcased their wealth and social status while contributing to the intellectual growth of their area. So overall, the spread of print and books during this period reflects a broader movement towards making knowledge more accessible, especially for the poor, while also highlighting how the wealthy used libraries to enhance their social standing. This connects to our theme of how print culture influenced social dynamics and access to knowledge across different classes. So, when it came to seditious reports, the newspapers were given a warning first. If they ignored that warning, the government had the right to seize the press and confiscate the printing machinery. This shows how strict control measures were initially in place to prevent any dissent. However, after the revolt of 1857, there was a significant shift in how authorities viewed freedom of the press. Instead of just warnings, they started enacting laws like the Vernacular Press Act of 1878. This act gave the government extensive powers to censor reports and editorials, especially in the vernacular press, which was crucial for controlling local language publications. Before 1798, colonial rulers weren't overly concerned with censorship. In fact, their main focus was on controlling Englishmen in India who criticized the misrule of the company. So, early on, censorship was more about managing criticism from within their own ranks rather than broader suppression of the press. All these points highlight how the approach to press control evolved over time, reflecting the changing political climate and the importance of maintaining authority. It's a key part of understanding how colonial powers managed information and dissent throughout their rule.